Yo, it's Kim, and like a couple of weeks ago, I was in the middle of making a video, and then this happened. So the specs for Panasonic's full-frame mirrorless camera have finally leaked, but to manage everyone's expectations, this has an FD2 rating on 43rumors.com, which if you don't know, is actually quite a low rating, so it's possible that any of this might not even be true. But this was reported by a news source, a mid-level engineer at Panasonic. So having said that, let's have a look at the confirmed specs, the partially confirmed specs, and the unconfirmed specs. Starting off with the confirmed specs first, there's full frame readout in 4K, no pixel binning, and there's no crop in 4K at 24 and 25 FPS. I'm guessing anything higher than that introduces a crop. There's also internal 4K 10-bit 422 recording up to 60 FPS, which is just blowing my mind right now. There's only two cameras that I know that can actually do that, and they're both from Panasonic, the GH5 and the GH5S. There's also an audio adapter similar to the GH5 with more robust connection, whatever that means, and additional controls. And there's adapters that will be available for other lens mounts like Canon, but they're not sure whether this will work with the ND adapter. More on that later. There's a weather sealed body, and they're not sure if it's fully weather sealed, but there's speculation that it's shower, splash, and dust proof. So that's good. And in terms of ports, there's a headphone jack, a mic jack, USB-C, HDMI, not sure if it's a mini HDMI or full HDMI, but there's flash and timecode sync, just the same as the GH5S. So taking a step back and having a look at those confirmed specs first, this looks like a high-end video camera. This is not really focused on photography, this is definitely a video camera. Now moving on to the partially confirmed specs, there will be some type of variable ND. Not sure if this is an add-on or an adapter or if it's built in. Now taking a step back again, this is definitely looking like a high-end video camera. This is not some mirrorless or DSLR camera. That's not the competition. The competition for this camera looks to be cinema cameras. Now moving on to unconfirmed specs, first, the camera will be using a new Panasonic sensor. They're not sure about the megapixel count, but it's believed to be around 30 megapixels. There's possible 4K recording, maybe via external recorder. This to me is a little bit fishy. I don't know if I jump on this boat yet, just because it's a full frame sensor and recording in RAW for video, and it's a small form factor, so I don't know, I call BS. There's also two card slots, but they're not sure what combination of SD or CFast slots they're gonna be. And the early prototype had no IBIS due to the sensor size, but this can change on release. Now personally, I wouldn't be surprised if this camera didn't have any IBIS at all. This is looking more and more to be like the GH5S's bigger brother. Now if you're not aware, cinema cameras don't have any form of sensor stabilization, just like the GH5S, and that's because you want that sensor to be fixed when you've already got dedicated devices and gadgets that stabilize your camera. Now there's also going to be new full frame lenses, and they're going to have IS or image stabilization in them, but they're not sure if all the new lenses will have it. But since there's no IBIS, it would make sense to have image stabilization in the lenses. And the price is estimated to be around $3,000, and Panasonic says it is confident that this new camera will be a big seller and seriously challenge Sony and Canon as the top selling full frame mirrorless camera. Damn. So having a recap of what we learned today, it looks like this is going to be a high-end video camera, and it looks like Panasonic is taking a page out of Sony's playbook with the a7 III. Now if you don't know what happened with the a7 III, Sony basically packed that camera with specs that could compete with $3,000 and up cameras, but they're selling it for $2,000. And in the same way, Panasonic's doing something similar with cinema cameras, and instead of selling it for $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000, they're selling it for $3,000. So after hearing about all these specs, I don't think I'd be interested in buying this camera just because there's so many video features I probably never use. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Would you be interested in buying this camera at all?